So if this was a five-a-side team, Roy, if we imagine Jamie Redknapp on the end...
Jamie, really?
Yeah. If this was a five-a-side team, one of you's got to go in goal. Who are you putting in goal?
Oh, he's the biggest, isn't he?
I thought you'd say Gary, actually.
No. Gary, I was better than Gary.
At what?
Jamie Carragher, what are you looking forward to most when you think about this new season?
Watching Haaland in the Premier League. He's been obviously a superstar, even as a young player. We're thinking of him being and maybe Mbappe as the two players they're going to take over from Ronaldo and Messi, I think, in the next few years. And the fact we've got him in the Premier League rather than losing him to Madrid or Barcelona is what normally happens, even though we love the Premier League, the most money here. More often than not, the best players in the world still play for a Real Madrid or Barcelona. So to get someone who's got that potential, I think it's really exciting. And also to see how it, what it does to City. Does it change them? Does Pep have to evolve? Does Haaland have to evolve? And yeah, really excited to see him.
Micah, do you think he makes Manchester City better?
Of course he makes him better.
Why of course?
Just because of the quality that he possesses. I think in terms of style of play, he might not fit in straight away. But look at the Real Madrid game when they needed a goal. They was kicking the balls long to defenders up top. Haaland is a unit, isn't he? So I'm not saying he's going to hit the ground running and fit into the structure of Man City, but in terms of his quality, he's got it in abundance, so he makes him better for sure.
So as we sit here now, Roy, before a ball is kicked, and obviously with another 3 or 4 weeks left in the transfer window, how many teams do you think can win the title?
I think it's just the two, Liverpool and City. For me, I think they're a level ahead of everybody else. We've seen that with the recruitment, even the game last week, and not only the Community Shield and it's pre-season, and they're certainly not up to speed yet. I just can't see the other teams getting near them for that league title. I think there'll be obviously improvement at Tottenham, and you think United will have to be better than last year. But the simple answer in terms of winning the league, Liverpool and City, I can't see beyond it.
Gary?
Same, Liverpool, City. I think if for some reason City, I don't think are in doubt. They definitely finished top two. Liverpool, I just always have this little hope, maybe more than thought, that they might just dip slightly, and then you think maybe Tottenham. There's the only team I can see that can get close to them. I don't think at the moment, I don't feel that any of the other teams, Chelsea, United, Arsenal, are in a position to get close to the top two, other than maybe Tottenham if they do. The Champions League cause a problem for them, but they've got some world-class strikers.
So if you look at the spending that City have done and the business that Liverpool have done, do you think either has got stronger than the other through the summer months?
I think you'd have to say City have got stronger. Calvin Phillips, they love Alvarez, and Haaland, I think, will be world-class. You just don't know the impact of Mane leaving Liverpool and Núñez stepping into that role, or Diaz or Jota making up for what Mane's done. I mean, you've talked about Mane being your favourite player for the last 4 or 5 years. You watch him a lot more than we do. But he's an unbelievable player, and he's left, surprisingly. I don't think any of us saw it a few months ago. So for me, the unknown for Liverpool, there is a little bit more of a doubt about Liverpool just because of that Mane factor and the fact that we know he's world-class. We don't know yet that Núñez is going to be world-class this season to replace him.
Jamie, what would be the biggest question that you would have about Liverpool?
Midfield. I think Liverpool's first choice midfield, all 3 players are in the 30s now. I think Fabinho's 29 now. That doesn't mean that once you get to 30 now, we know how well these players look after themselves, but the fact all 3 are at that same age, and you've got Henderson and Thiago, who in the last sort of 3 or 4 years have had injuries. And I don't think it's a numbers problem for Liverpool in terms of midfield, because they've still got people behind that, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Keita, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott's come in there, James Milner can still do a job in there. But it's just that sort of one more now where I just think the quality, how real someone could get a goal. Roy's talking about, Liverpool never scores in the 3 finals that they played. But I always felt there's so much pressure on Liverpool's front 3, whoever it was like your job's to score, and we know that. But now and again, they can't score every game. And you need someone to just come out of nowhere. You think of Man City in that last game of the season, was a Gundogan who come off the bench and get those goals. Liverpool haven't really got that. And I just think if Liverpool are to fall down this season, I think it would just be something in midfield, because I can't see those players being fit all season and at the age they are doing the running that's necessary in a Jurgen Klopp team in midfield to facilitate that front 3, whoever it may be. So I think that's where they could have a little bit of a problem.
What about if there's to be one surprise from the pack? Is there a club that more than others has done a bit of business in the summer, Roy, that you think could potentially challenge the top two?
Spurs.
Why?
Manager, recruitment. I think Gary mentioned earlier, they've got one world-class striker, well, maybe two unbelievable, brilliant goal scorers. If they stay fit, then Spurs have a great chance in terms of competing, obviously doing better than Arsenal, Chelsea, United, that little group behind the top two. I think Tottenham could do it. Brilliant manager, they've got momentum into the club. Recruitment, Spurs usually can drag their heels during the summer, but they've got their business done early. Got decent strength and depth. I think Spurs could have a brilliant season.
Anything they're still lacking?
Well, I suppose the DNA in their club, where you know, where there's expectation now with the club. No, it is. This is Spurs. We all know over the years, class is a kind of a cup team, I suppose. But you always think Spurs, I've said it many times before on the television, they always ultimately let you down. I was a Spurs fan as a kid, and you look at them, you go, listen, but now the expectations are, can they back it up? That be the only doubt. Can they step up to the plate and perform week in, week out and have a fantastic season in terms of pushing them top two?
Mike has been shaking his head next year.
No, I don't. I agree with what he was saying, but I think with Champions League football, if Keane and Son gets injured, the quality that come in, it's just not the same. And that's not
Richarlison now?
But it's not the same as Keane and
But
Son.
you can say it about any team if they get injured.
No one's got the same.
Well, City, you can pick any of their front three. Liverpool, really, as well, with Jota.
Who's better than Haaland to come in on the same level as
No, but
Haaland?
it's not. But this is what I mean. It's not about him as just a player. It's about the system. So they could play a false nine, and like you've just said, how many goals did they score last season? How many games did they win? So I don't see Spurs getting to that level. They might win the odd game. Spurs won the first game against City last season, the opening day, but throughout the season, I don't think they can sustain that.
I think the question was if there's one team
Yeah.
that could get up to them.
Yeah.
I think Spurs are the only one, but something would have to go badly wrong for Liverpool or City for that to happen.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that with Chelsea at the moment. They're normally always there and, normally always pick a trophy up somewhere along the line, Chelsea. And they do have what I think Roy's just mentioned, maybe Spurs don't, that sort of DNA of winning and getting over the line and winning big games. And it's yet to be seen that with Spurs, even though they did well against probably Liverpool and City last season, but really big games that you think, they've got to win this one. But I think Conte will give them that. And I just like that with Chelsea at the moment because you're not quite sure who they'll bring in between now and the end of the window. I think there'll be more business there, but I think it'll be those two sort of third and fourth.
If we're talking about other teams, who do you think will finish higher this season, Gary? Manchester United or Arsenal?
As I sit here now...
Be careful what you say.
Let me be really clear. When you say top four predictions, I'm going to say United, but that's just heart, that's not head. I think Arsenal definitely at this moment in time feeling far better shape. United, again, to what stability, they've got the De Jong situation, which is dragging on. You've got the Ronaldo situation, which is, to be fair, a distraction and causing them disturbance, and it will distract the manager in his press conferences and take away from the ethic that he's built in that pre-season tour. So there is definitely more questions on United because they haven't got the business done, and they've also got the star player at this moment in time in a position whereby he could leave, he might stay, and you'd have to say Arsenal.
Roy, what do you think?
I'll have to disagree with Gary. No, I just think United. I think there's still I still look at Arsenal for all the pluses.
Is that heart or head, though?
No, a bit of both, I think. When you look at them last season, the position, all the plaudits they got with their young players, and they got themselves in a great position and blew it. That's what they did. They didn't get the job done. They didn't step up to the plate. So they couldn't back it up. I think there is something still amiss at United. There's obviously one or two issues with the Ronaldo stuff, and they might get one or two deals on the next few weeks. But I still think from a footballing point of view, forget what my heart is saying, I think my head's going, I think if United can just tidy up that little mess over the next few weeks, and whatever happens with Ronaldo, whether move him on or say you're staying. If he's staying, whatever, he's going to contribute goals and he'll have to settle down. And if they get one or two players over the line, Gary, some deals unfortunately do drag out for the summer. But if they can get it done, I think then United will be pretty decent.
Could be a late arrival, but not as late as Jamie Redknapp.
Yes! That's soccer, eh? This comes on.
New haircuts and everything. Sorry I'm late, guys. Apologies.
So just dressed casually, they said. We've all turned up in black T-shirts. Jamie, we're just about to launch into a new discussion point, so I thought I'd save it for you. Cristiano Ronaldo. Nice easy one to get started. What do you do with him? How do you resolve that now?
It's a difficult one that surprised me, to be honest, especially when he's so affiliated with a club and all the great memories he's had, and he's in danger of souring it greatly, you know. And it's really shocked me. I thought he would have come back and maybe, but to go, I hate seeing players ever feeling like they're almost going on strike to a certain extent, not turning up for training, not doing the right things. I know sometimes you've got to force a move, but it looks like he's forcing the move to where we don't know right now. There's not that many suitors out there, and I know he got a lot of stick last year, but I thought he was still their best player by a long way. Scored goals, had great moments. Right now, it's a hindrance to the club. It's a hindrance for the manager that's coming in and wants to set his stall out. I think he's handling it pretty well. I don't think he's sort of beating around the bush. He said the other day when he leaves before the end of the game, I can't have that one bit. I find that disgraceful. You know, you can wait 20 minutes, watch your teammates. Even if you're unhappy there, you just try to do the right thing.
If you were Eric Ten Hag, Roy, would you be fighting to keep Ronaldo?
You'd have to try and keep him, yeah, because he's a brilliant player. But again, we don't know what Ronaldo's behaviour is like now when he's back in terms of back in the building, missing pre-season. Obviously, we've been told family issues. If that's the case, so be it. If he's just down tools, that is unacceptable. But I don't think it's such a big deal as everyone making out. I think ultimately the manager, when you're a manager, you don't go look for trouble. Trouble comes your way. So this has come to the managers in front of him. He's got to deal with it. But I think he can put a marker down and say it's Ronaldo next week or two. And he's got takers. And if the deal works for the United, they'll probably want some money back. But yeah, if you want to go to Lisbon or wherever you go, then off you go. And the other players are looking, going, OK, short term we'll miss him, but in the bigger picture, we're trying to rebuild, because Man United really aren't going to be competing for league titles, I think, for something 2 or 3 years. But if he gets his head around and shows and does his man management and says, listen, we're keeping you. You got to get your head down and be part of the group. What we're trying to do here, I think that's what Jamie just said. I think it can work out well for United as well. I don't fall for this one. If a player's out of order, you have to get rid of him. And I think when a player gets 20-odd goals for you, you've got to be careful when you're letting these lads out the door. But the problem is Ronaldo. He wanted to leave Man United many years ago, and Ferguson at the time said we'd stay another year, we'd probably go. And he got his head down, of course, and he was a bit younger. But at the moment, my worry is if they kind of say you're definitely staying, and United start the season not great, and he'd be resentful towards the manager, then it could get ugly.
Jamie, of the 3 promoted clubs, who do you give the best chance of survival?
I like to look at Bournemouth this year.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I think Solanke's, he had, obviously at Chelsea when he was a young player coming through, I thought he was like an exceptional talent. Had a bit of a bad time. Then he struggled when he first went there and scored lots of goals last year. I think he's coming. He's got a real presence about him. I see a resurgence with number 9s as well this year, with obviously what Liverpool have done and Man City getting Haaland. So I would have to say, I know it's my former club, and I really want to see him do well. But I've got a feeling Bournemouth will be all right this year.
Forest?
Oh, I think it's going to be so tough for the 3 teams. Forest have really gambled. I think Forest
12 signings.
And big money, big weight. I think Forest have
13.
proper gambled. They have to get a good start. If Forest don't have a good start and players don't kind of bond together, then the manager will be in trouble there. Come September, October, if they have a bad start. If they start early and they get a bit of confidence, momentum, and the players settle in terms of money, what they're throwing at, you think Forest, Fulham. I fear for Bournemouth and Fulham. And we've seen teams previously get promoted, you go, and they buy 1 or 2 players, you go, yeah, the feel-good factor. They end up with 20-odd points. Was it Norwich, Watford? Because the Premier League is so strong now. So I fear for the 3 teams.
It's some statement with Lingard, though, Roy, isn't it, getting him? And that surprised me.
Yeah, I suppose so. But then the worries about that deal is Jesse's going to be signed a 1-year deal. It's as if, you know, is there a real commitment from him? There's no commitment from the club. That's why. Listen, Jesse's a talented boy, but the most goals Jesse scored in one season was 8. For all his talent, he was at Man United for 11 years, played 150 games only. So I wouldn't be hanging my hat on Jesse Lingard either.
It was so poorly played, that one, by both. I know that, you know, in the day it's a 1-year deal, but you just talked about a clause that could go in Ronaldo's contract. But why couldn't Jesse Lingard and the club say, right, it's a 1-year deal, this is going to look like I'm going to make you look like a mercenary, Jesse, and it's going to look like the club basically haven't got faith in staying up and we can't keep you beyond next season because we can't pay you in the Championship. Why didn't they just do a 2-year deal whereby if they went down you could leave on a free?
Who's got a question for the team?
A question for Gary. Almost 12 months ago to the day, you said that you couldn't see the plan at Arsenal, and you've said earlier today...
Are you reading that question?
I wanted to make sure I phrased it. So almost 12 months to the day, you said that you couldn't see the plan at Arsenal, and you've said here that you think Arsenal are in better shape than Manchester United now. Would you accept that part of the reason Arsenal you think are in better shape is because there is a plan. Man United at times are making it up as they go.
No, sometimes when you say something on television, it can sometimes the context can't come across correctly. And the detail. No, for me, if you said to me this season, they spent a fortune, by the way, in the last couple of years, so that's one thing. My concern has always been, I think everyone's concern, and we'll be sat here probably in 6 months saying exactly the same thing, that Arsenal don't have the strength, leadership in midfield or at the back. They won't have the leader that basically gets them through those difficult moments. They faded and folded like you wouldn't believe at the end of last season. They absolutely just went and wilted. My concern this season is that they could have a very promising season, but I know from breaking through as a group of young players, and there's a load of talented young players at Arsenal, if you don't have them 3 or 4 people as a safety net to give you that sort of comfort blanket at the points in the season where it's tough, it doesn't really matter how talented they are, you will wilt again. So when I say I don't have a plan, Arsenal have lacked leadership for like 7 or 8 years. I don't see... I get buying young players is a plan. That's not a plan. That's every club's plan to buy good young players and talented young players. But you have to get a right leadership in the club. So I didn't see Ben White, for instance, as a centre-half, really talented, like him a lot, but he's not what would be a dominant leader that's going to carry him through those difficult moments, and that was proven. So that's probably a bit more detail and context of what I meant.